Hi there, welcome back to Thai Caliente. Today we're making tamales. We're gonna be doing tamales de queso con rajas, also known as tamales with cheese, and we're gonna be using poblanos. So like all of my tamale recipes, I'm gonna be using my stand mixer to make the masa. So this is the masa that you want. This is the Masa brand. You can find this at most grocery stores. And then of course we're gonna need some corn husks. So this is a pretty big bag. My recipe is for a small batch. Usually we can get about 16 tamales out of this recipe, which is perfect for just trying it out for the first time or if you've never made tamales. So first off, we're going to roast our poblanos. So I already have my oven on broil. And then we're going to soak the corn husks in some warm water. So I just have the poblanos here on a baking sheet, and I already have my broiler on. And I'm just going to put them right here and then check on them in about 5 minutes. So see, the poblanos have already started blistering. Just going to flip them over. And do this side. Okay, that right there looks good. So now I'm just going to place them into a bowl carefully. And then cover it with some plastic wrap. Just like that. And just let them steam for a few minutes.
So it's been about 10 minutes and you can see here the poblanos are kind of nice and soft. So you want to remove the skin, otherwise it's going to be really tough. So that's not the part of the pepper that you want. So have a bowl or a bag where you can put all the scraps in. If you have kids, this is a great project to have them help you with. So go ahead and remove the stem and all the seeds. This part is a little bit hard because it's kind of slimy and sticky, but try to get as many seeds as you can. You can also use like a wet paper towel to remove them. So the poblanos or the rajas, they actually shred really easily. You can just use your fingers, or if you want to do a quicker method, you can stack a few together and then just go ahead and slice those all at once. And set the poblanos aside, and now I'm going to be slicing up my queso Oaxaca cheese. So I got this at my Mexican market. It's already in strips, which is nice. A lot of times you'll find Oaxaca like in a ball. That's a little bit harder to cut. You can shred that to make it a little bit easier, but I'm just slicing it the same length as I want my tamales. So I'm gonna go ahead and set those aside.
So for the corn husks, we're just going to pick out some ones that are nice. So remember, these are dried and we need to rehydrate them. They have a bunch of spots. We don't want those. See, like these are really little, so we don't necessarily want to use those. So we can also overlap them as well. So I will take some smaller ones. And if they have some spots like that, we necessarily don't want those. So those we can toss. To rinse these and then place them in my pot of warm water. I rinsed all of my corn husks, going to place them in the warm water. So this is just water that I got warmed on the stove, and I'm just going to place these in so that way the corn husk can soften. There. And they're just gonna need about 15 minutes in this warm water. If your water is not as warm, then you'll need a little bit more time. You see there, they're already like more pliable. So.
Once the corn husks have softened, go ahead and remove them from the pot and allow them to dry, and then just set them aside. So I'm going to be making the masa right now. I added 3 cups of flour. a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of baking powder. I'm using the paddle attachment on my stand mixer. I'm just going to turn it on just to get everything mixed together. Now I'm going to be adding the oil. So this is avocado oil. You can use any type of neutral oil that you like. This is half a cup of oil to 3 cups of masa. So now we're going to start mixing it and then slowly add the chicken broth. I'm using a low sodium chicken broth. If your chicken broth is saltier, then go ahead and decrease the amount of salt. You can always add more later. And I'm just kind of pouring it slowly. You can see it's kind of looking like wet sand now, and then it starts clumping together. But I'm just going to keep adding it until the masa starts to get nice and smooth. So this process takes about 10 minutes of mixing the masa in the mixer. Also make sure you scrape down the sides. I tasted it and it did need a little bit more salt, so I'm adding a little bit more salt here. And then just keep mixing it until it gets nice, light, and fluffy. This right here is absolutely perfect. So if you're not using it right away, you can store it in the refrigerator, but it does need to come up to room temperature before you start making the tamales. So I have my dried and cleaned corn husk here. I'm adding a good hefty spoon of the masa, and you just want to spread it in an even layer so that way you have the same amount of masa all around the tamale. And don't get frustrated, this definitely takes some practice, but once you have masa spread out, I'm going to place a slice of cheese, and then you can go ahead and do 1 or 2 of the rajas in there. Another option is some pickled jalapeno, that's also really good too. So I'm just going to fold it together and then fold it over just like this, and then flip it over and then fold the bottom part up. So you just kind of want to squeeze it a little bit just so it distributes evenly, and then go ahead and set it aside. So I'm going to show you a couple more times. This one I'm going to do a little bit faster. Depending on the size of your corn husk, you may need to overlap them, but this one was pretty big, so I'm just going to use that. So again, spread your masa, add your queso and your rajas. And then this one, I'm folding one side and then closing it with the other. This, I think this turns out a little bit better because the tamale, when you unwrap it, it's a little bit smoother. So that's how I made the rest of the tamales. So now I'm going to show you ones that I'm making for my kids. I just did the cheese, just the queso. So these are obviously a little bit smaller. And to tell them apart, I'm actually going to tie it with a strip of the corn husk. You can also do this if the tamales keep unraveling, so this will ensure that they stay together. So I'm cooking the tamales in the Instant Pot. I'm just adding 1 cup of water, and then this is the steamer basket that I have for my 8-quart Instant Pot. So here are all of my tamales. You want to arrange them standing up against the sides. You don't want them to reach the top of the lid, so make sure none of the corn husks reach the lid. I'm going to place the smaller tamales in the middle, and then just make sure everything is nice and secure and tucked into the Instant Pot. Go ahead and put your lid on, and then we are going to set the valve to sealing and set the timer for manual high pressure for 30 minutes. So initially I did 20 minutes on my first recipe, but I think 30 minutes is the perfect amount of time. So release the steam, and this is very important. Let the tamales sit there for at least 10 minutes. The masa is going to look a little bit underdone, but once they sit for 10 minutes, they're going to firm up. If you can keep them a little bit longer, even better. I let mine rest for about 30 minutes, and then look how beautiful these tamales de queso con rajas turned out. Filling is pretty simple. It's just the queso and the rajas. So you want to make sure your masa has a lot of good flavors. So that's why when I tasted it, when I was making it, I did add a little bit more salt. But for such a simple filling, they're just so good, so comforting. I'm adding a little more poblanos on top. You can serve this with some salsa verde or some crema. For breakfast, I like this with a fried egg on top, and it is absolutely delicious. Yum. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.